Hello. Hello, and welcome to Shedding the Bitch Radio, where you can discuss, debate, and get advice on how to discover and shed the bitches of fear, insecurity, self-doubt, and negative mindsets so you can realize your dreams and life purpose and create and accelerate the riches you want in life. Join us here live every Tuesday at noon Eastern and dialogue with us at 818-572-2910. You can also chat with us at Blog Talk Radio /SheddingTheBitch or share your stories on our website at sheddingthebitch.com. Whatever the bitch is that's holding you back from living your life to the fullest, it's not worth giving up the riches in life that you deserve. So call in now and let Bernadette Boas know what's holding you back. 818-572-2910.
Good day, everyone. I hope you are all fantastic on this gorgeous Tuesday, wherever you might be around the world, morning, noon, or night. I want to do a shout-out really quickly to Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I lost mine, as you all know, many years ago. It's almost like 15 years. But at the same time, to my brothers-in-law, to all the dads out there who are getting ready to be celebrated and to be honored and respected, which you should be. So an early Happy Father's Day to all of you. At the same time, several weeks ago, we had a guest, Jeffrey Tobias Halter. He's a returning guest, and he's always bringing new life into his subjects of why women. And what I really want you to do is go back and either pull down that radio episode or go to YouTube and pull down the video that we did of that radio episode because it is Father's Day, and he has his Hall Father's Daughter initiative that he asks those male business leaders to really think about the impact of decisions that are being made for and against women in the workplace as it pertains to their own wives, mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, and that video, that interview was very profound, and his suggestion is to bring it into the workplace and go to his website, whywomen.biz, and pull down his father-daughter initiative and bring it into work this week as we lead into Father's Day on Sunday. So Jeffrey Tobias Halter, great interview. At the same time, if you have any photos of your dad, your brothers, whomever, that will be celebrating this weekend, then go out onto our Facebook or Twitter page, Shedding the Bitch, and be sure to post them and celebrate them, honor them, and kind of give them an extra little shout-out during this Father's Day week. Deborah's on the line. She'll be out there tweeting and looking out for any comments or inputs that you have. So Deborah Parker of Parker House Virtual Services. So be sure to network with us, both on Facebook or Twitter. Of course, you reach out to me on LinkedIn and a number of other places as well, and we always appreciate that. We're going to have a little change to our format today. We're going to make sure that we kick off quickly with our guest because I want you to have a full kind of good 25-minute conversation with her, and then I'm going to come back and have additional conversations with you and updates and announcements. So be sure to hang in there with us, and we'll get to all of it today because I have been struggling this past week myself with this subject that we're talking about today, kindness. And, again, I'll share my takeaway following the interview with our guest. And today's conversation is all about that. It's all about return on kindness, that ROK. You know, the ROI? Well, our guest talks about ROK, return on kindness, which builds your profile, your prospects, and your sales. Now, what we're going to talk about and get into and really help you to understand is what are those 7 pathways to kindness, and how can kindness help business? But not only that, but in today's, and we all know about it, that's what I've been dealing with for the last week, in today's intense world, what kind of things can we be doing? And more so, I even want to talk to our guests about how does kindness even shift your own mindset if you are overwhelmed, tired, stressed, exhausted, and just not feeling it? How can just you doing a few kind things really turn things around for you? And then how do you expand your spheres of influence by being kind? It is a very, very powerful, powerful thing. And, you have to understand what your role is in this whole kindness thing. And so I also want you to check out her book, I'm sorry, I'm like losing it here. Where does I go? The Profit of Kindness. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Barnes & Noble. You can even find it at her website, profitofkindness.com. So I want to welcome to the show a longtime friend and colleague from many years back, Jill Lublin. How are you, Jill?
I'm doing great, Bernadette. So glad to be here with you.
Well, thank you. Well, to give you a proper introduction, Jill is an international speaker on topics of radical influence, publicity, networking, kindness, and referrals. And she is the author of 4 best-selling books, including Get Noticed Get Referrals by McGraw Hill, and co-author of Guerrilla Publicity and Networking Magic. Her latest book, Profit of Kindness, is published by Career Press. Jill is a master strategist on how to position your business for more profitability and more visibility in the marketplace. She is CEO of a strategic consulting firm and has over 20 years' experience working with over 100,000 people, plus national and international media. Jill teaches publicity crash courses at both live events and live web and consulting and speaking all over the world. So go to profitofkindness.com and also JillLublin.com. And I've seen her in action. You want to see her in action. She's awesome. So, Jill, thank you for being part of the program.
Thank you, Bernadette. So great to be here, and thank you for the great accolades. It's always wonderful.
Oh, no problem. Well, I first want to find out, before we dive into kind of the theories and the tips and whatnot you have around kindness, how did you see that there was this need and this strategic imperative around kindness as it pertains to profit? How did you get into all of this?
Well, what's so wonderful is, how we get inspirations everywhere. And I have an 82-year-old friend that I've probably been friends with for over 20 years. And I help her out a lot as she's in the aging process. And one of the things I do is take her to lunch occasionally. And we were out to lunch, and she's like, "Oh, Jill, you're so kind. I wish other people were as kind. Wouldn't it be great," she said, "if we had a new currency, the currency of kindness?" And in that moment, Bernadette, I thought, what a great book title, what a great book theme. Boy, do we need more kindness. And then in my research for Profit of Kindness, what I discovered was that companies that are more kind have happier customers, make more money. There's a huge trend right now for kindness in companies, et cetera. So that's been really great.
And it's so true. And I loved kind of one of your talking points being about, recognizing this intense world we tend to live in right now. And it's almost kind of so overwhelming. And kindness can just kind of infuse some calm into the whole picture. So how do you use kindness? Like, for those listeners out there, we have, corporate professionals as well as business owners as well as individuals. How can they use kindness in their job, in their career, in their life to grow their business or grow their career?
So a couple different things. One is profit and kindness are really can work hand in hand. But one of the things is, one of my, for instance, return on kindness principles, I have a 7-fold path, as you indicated, and instead of ROI, we're concerned about ROK, return on kindness. One of them is flexibility. Right? You got to be flexible with people. Allow your, whether it's your contractors, your employees, to have options for working. I think that's really important. Gratitude. Make sure to express thanks to your vendors and your suppliers, your employees, the people you connect with daily. Walk down the street and smile. It's such simple things. It doesn't have to cost a lot. And this is whether you're in business or not in business, no matter what. And I'm working a lot with corporate teams to help teams be kinder to each other, because we have seen again and again that it increases productivity and engagement. And so this happens everywhere in life.
Right. I can't agree with you more. And I'm going to throw something at you, and forgive me if you're not prepared or you don't work with them. But do you have a lot of dealings with millennials by chance?
I do, because they're in my publicity courses and I help them, and it is different. Particularly the flexibility issue is important. And, interestingly enough, there's a study about millennials that actually it's not about the money as much in their jobs, but about the lifestyle and the interaction with their teammates and cohorts. It's a different mentality.
Right. And especially because we have 3 core generations now in the workplace, and they're very different. They're very different, and so I just have been experiencing something over the last few months where I have a older boomer, and then myself, who's probably at the beginning of the booming stage, and then some millennials, and the dynamic is just unbelievable. But anyway, I digress. So kindness, when it comes to kind of bringing that in to your business, it's around flexibility, gratitude. What are some other of your pathways, as you call them?
Sure. Another one is generosity. Making sure you're generous. That means with your clients, with your customers, with your, whether it's teammates or contractors. I mean, this is for small business owners. This is for moms, with your children. How about that, right? With your spouse and friendships and relationships. So I think it's all important, and making sure you're generous. But I want to say also, Bernadette, people talk about random acts of kindness, and I want people to do conscious acts of kindness. Conscious acts of kindness every single day. Just one. Pick one. It can be as simple as sending a nice text of how much someone means to you, or appreciating someone's work. Giving someone a kind gesture that leads them to a referral. Whatever it is, just do something and practice something kind that takes you out of your own world and helps someone else's world.
Sure. And also just pay attention to that response that you get, even if it's just so small, because, like I said, it shifts your mindset. And so if you're having a bad day, or if you're tired or exhausted like I am today, doing something kind can actually help provide you energy. Would you agree with that?
Exactly. It's so wonderful what kindness does, because it really supports others to. First of all, it just enhances the spirit, and as you say, all of a sudden your tiredness goes away. Your heart feels bigger. It's just noticeable for us individually as we do our acts of kindness, and of course the others in receiving an act of kindness also get the same benefit. And what I've noticed about acts of kindness is that regardless of what happens in that very minute, whether people realize it or not, it's something people feel, talk about, retain. A dear friend of mine told me she was in a restaurant, and it was after we help people pitch book ideas at Book Expo and help authors and publishers to seek publishers and agents. And it's a lot of work, right? And so she was back in Connecticut the night back, and she sat down and bought herself a nice dinner at a nice restaurant. She was sitting alone, and she went to pay the bill, and turned out a couple had already bought her dinner, and she goes, "What?" to the waiter, and he says, "Well, turns out that every week they pick someone to pay for their dinner, and they notice you sitting alone, so they decide to pay for yours." I mean, isn't that amazing?
Nice.
Yeah, and so next thing
truly,
I know, by the way, I'm getting a text about, Jill, you'll never believe what happened. They paid for my dinner. Isn't that the sweetest thing? So here's what happens. I'm a publicity expert, so I am always looking at how does kindness create more publicity? Does it? And guess what? Even just the talking of that, or with major corporations, how if you notice that kind companies are getting more publicity. So that's what I'm looking at. Like, what's happening in that arena, and how is it, quote unquote, paying off? And guess what? It does.
Right, absolutely. And if you ever come across a company that is not truly kind, but they feel because you talk a lot about staying ahead of the competition, and therefore, if they all of a sudden find one of their competitors who are using kindness. I always go back to the Macy's 34th Street movie where Macy's, tells people to go to another competitor, and people actually want to stay with Macy's because of the fact that they were kind enough to send them elsewhere to find their Christmas gifts. But do you find that there's some companies that are artificial in their kindness approach or kindness strategy?
Listen, kindness can be, quote unquote, a strategy. There's nothing wrong with it being a strategy. Like, I have a give back strategy, just as an example, that is actually quite kind. I give away a seat in my publicity course, every single month, and it's given to a nonprofit, and that's my kindness and a give back strategy, particularly. So what I tell you about companies that aren't really kind, first of all, if they're even practicing it, I'm happy, because it's a start. And sometimes you have to start to just become it. And at least, even if, like, the CEO isn't kind, but the company's policies are kind, hey, guess what? It'll still come out as the kind company. And I think that makes all the difference.
True. If we can all just start with a little bit, we can change the world possibly. So while we're talking, everyone, I want you to go to two websites: profitofkindness.com and then JillLublin.com as well. Check out our resources. Check out our books. Go to Amazon. Go to Barnes & Noble. Buy her book. We could all learn a thing or two about being kind, and she may have some brand new strategies for you for both your business, your career, even your life. So on that note, from a competitive perspective, what can businesses do to kind of stay ahead of their competition when it comes to kindness?
So a couple things. One is practice the return on kindness principle of flexibility with their employees. So you retain employees, and they can do what they want to do. And in today's world, that's really a key point. So that's important. Number two, retain positivity and flexibility with their customers. I get the, that's our policy bit. And here's what I know, because I travel a lot to speak and I go around a lot. And you know what? Everything is, frankly, negotiable. I mean, almost everything, right? And when someone comes to me with, or an airline even, that's our policy, or, true, and I've just seen lots of policies interrupted, or like, particularly hotels, right? And so, for instance, a hotel chain that I'm a gold member of, I went in there and I said, hey, can I have an upgrade? And they said, oh, I'm sorry, we don't do that. And I said, well, it actually most hotels they do, and I'm a gold member, and it's funny, they never did it, and the guy was really kind of, not very nice. And guess what? I'll never be back there, and even made me feel really yucky about that chain for a while. Right. So he could have just done a simple thing like upgrade my room. I'm a tired traveler. It's midnight. Simple things that make a huge difference. And I think really letting your employees have latitude to do that is important. Knowing, to say to people, it's our policy, but I want to make an exception, makes people feel great and doesn't, frankly, cost much.
Right. And they remember it. And just like they remember just like you remember that little bad feeling in your in your heart, you also remember those that treat you really well, and therefore you're going to become loyal to them.
Exactly. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was interesting when you said about teams. How do you work with teams to infuse kindness into how they collaborate and work together? How do you go about doing that?
So one of the things that's really key, particularly in corporate, where sometimes freedom of communication isn't as, shall we say, celebrated, is get people talking and sharing. What is it that's, pissing them off? We'll use that word. What is it that's, that's needing to be resolved? Number one, getting people talking, I think, is really key. Having them focus on one of these return on kindness points is helpful, I found, and that makes a difference. So I think those pieces, getting people talking, getting them interacting in team, getting communication out in the open is really important. Really important.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so is there a formula to return on kindness? What do we need to understand if we were to start using that as kind of fluently as we do return on investment? Is there a formula that is used to measure whether or not, there's kindness in what it is that you're doing and or, your improvement in return on kindness?
So a couple things. One can actually measure it. It's usually measured in your revenues, frankly. And, it's interesting. Honda did a big car commercial and included the word kindness in it. Annual reports are now including the word kindness in it as one of their value statements. Yes, I'm seeing it lots more. We're seeing lots of indication of it, and here's a great story. Panera Bread Company, big company. One of my stories in Profit of Kindness is about a young man who his grandmother was dying. He calls up Panera Bread. This is in New Hampshire, and he says, "My grandma's dying. Could you make some clam chowder?" Now it's Tuesday. They said, it's our policy that we don't make clam chowder until Friday. And he said, oh, boy, but, my grandma may not even be alive then, and is there any way you might be able to do this? And the woman on the other side of the phone said, I know it's our policy, but, I'm going to go make a batch of clam chowder. And so she did. She not only made that, she bunched up some cookies, and he came in. She sent it off to him. It was precious. And what's interesting? Number one, she's been promoted to manager, and she was a minimum wage employee who basically said, "I'm not sticking with the policy. This is an exception." And on top of that, the grandson, put out on social media what they had done because he was so touched by it. Do you know? I went and looked that up. They have over 300,000 hits on this story going viral. Now, talk about great publicity and imaging and perception. Hello, because they did the right thing. Because they didn't look at policy, because she didn't listen to maybe the fact that she shouldn't do that. And she just did it because it was the right thing to do. That's my point. Now, win customers for life? Yes. Great publicity? Yes. Panera's revenues going up, you bet. The amount of social media traffic they have, they could never have bought that amount of space. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so we can measure it in revenue, social media, in publicity, impressions, so to speak, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a whole slew of ways we can measure it. That is awesome. Now, I want to, because I want to be sure we hit on this. We talked about it in your talking points around the intense world. How do we get our country? How do we get, with all the intensity and all the ugliness that seems to exist today, how do we get us back on track with kindness? What can we do? What can we do?
Yes. Well, the first thing we can do is listen to differing opinions when they're not your own. Okay, that's number one. And so what that looks like is In a world divided today, which we are living in a world very divided, start listening for different opinions and be okay with the fact that it might be different, and say things like, tell me more about that, as opposed to getting judgmental or worked up, shall we say. So I think that's really helpful. And the other thing is that if we practice random acts of kindness every single day, that will also make a big difference. Simple things that will help shift perception. So that means, reach out when it might be difficult. Put a smile on your face as you're walking, even though, your face might be in your phone, checking your social media and email. But look up and, make a connection with someone. And I think in today's overly connected world that we have gotten disconnected, funny enough, and that things are expected very fast, response is quick. And so speaking of response, I would also say if somebody is upsetting to you or you receive an upsetting email, phone call, or text, don't text right back, email right back, or phone right back. Let it cool down for yourself, for the other person, and I tend to say don't respond too quick.
Right. That I love, and I can't even tell you how relevant that is for me right now in my life. Yeah, I can't tell you. I think that's an awesome one. Don't react.
Yes, very good. Very good to practice.
Yes, absolutely. As hard as it might be, that is an absolutely great practice to have. So, and you mentioned it. Everybody wants quick returns, and they want quick response and immediate gratification, and therefore they can be very much about, it's all about me and what do I get. And yet being kind to somebody else, they often will say, well, I'm going to be kind to somebody else because, I'm going to get something from it. So how do we kind of shift that mindset from what do I get to what do I give?
Yes, very good question. So, it's interesting. I've written another book on networking and called Networking Magic, and one of the best qualities of great networkers was giving. So, one of the things to look for is that question: what do you give? What can you give? And walk into a room as opposed to what am I looking for and who are my new clients and, where are good prospects in this room. My question is, who can I serve? Who can I help? And ask that question to yourself before you walk into a room. That will be really, really helpful.
Love it. One of my favorite kind of mantras that I say is serving others serves me. And not serves me in a way of selfishness, but I get so much from serving others. So I absolutely love that. Think about what you can give as opposed to what you're going to get.
Exactly.
Love it. All right. We have a couple more because I know you have a whole list of things we could talk about. Okay. So one of the things I find interesting is when people will say that if they're kind, they'll appear weak. They'll appear like a doormat. What do you say to that?
Well, number one, I don't agree. So to be kind, you can have boundaries. You can have rules and policies, but remember my comment about sometimes policies go out the window, right? And that you just do what's right. And you do what's right in the moment, okay? So I think that's really important. But to be kind sometimes means telling someone you don't have the time right now, or that's not appropriate, or that you cannot, fulfill an obligation, and that's the kindest thing to do instead of thinking they're going to receive something from you, or, like somebody said to me the other day, oh, can I just take you to lunch and ask you about how to publish a book? Because obviously I know a lot about that, and I help people do that. Well, guess what, Bernadette? I help people do that for a living and get paid for it. So my answer is no, I'm sorry, I'm not available for lunch. I'm available for 5 minutes on the phone to answer some quick questions for you if you would like. Okay, that was kind.
Right.
It addressed her question, but I'm not giving away my time. And I think it's important for all of us to honor our time. What do we get paid for? And then, I, as a give back strategy, give away one of the seats in my publicity course. That's really kind, and it's something I do very specifically. So I think it's important to know what you're doing, what are your boundaries, what's okay, what's not okay. Right?
Yep.
All that's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, because I am going to get this question, so I know you may not be prepared for it, but so people are going to come to me and say, Bernadette, how do I get one of her publicity crash courses, given away free? Where does she do that? When does she do that? How does she do that? So do you want to talk to us about your events and the things that you do and how you go about doing them?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I do teach a publicity crash course. It's a live Zoom webinar, so it's live with me, and it's really incredible to get, 4 documents done, no kidding, to get your publicity done and get your name out there, which is so important in today's world. And we are going to actually get it done in the course. So I teach it live Zoom, or I teach it live in multiple locations, which you can feel free to ask us about. And Bernadette, anyone listening to this, please let them know. All they have to do is submit a registration code of publicity, and they will get almost half off what they see at publicitycrashcourse.com, which is where you can read much more about it. And for the nonprofit who absolutely knows that I can support you, I will offer, as a give back to your listener, the opportunity to give our office a call at 415-883-5455, and I'll just repeat it again, 415-883-5455, and let us know your nonprofit and the city you'd like to attend. That does have to be attended live with me, and happy to help you in any way. But I got lots coming up in Los Angeles and Dallas and Florida, as well as the Bay Area and ongoing. So no problem with finding a live date, and I would be delighted to help your listeners with that.
Absolutely. And folks, especially, I have listenerships all over the world, but those of you in Atlanta listening, because I have a lot of you, if we can get Jill here, if we have a big, big audience, so let me know your interest, and we'll see if we can work that out over the next, who knows. But anyway, so please, everybody, profitofkindness.com, JillLublin.com, and then her publicitycrashcourse.com, and use the code publicity. All right, Jill, before I let you go, any last big tip or piece of advice when it comes to working on folks are okay, their return on kindness?
So I want you to think about how every day you can, shall we say, stretch yourself just a little bit and practice even one more return on kindness principle, such as generosity. Be more generous with people. Give more time. Give more of your energy. Write that check to somebody who needs it or the nonprofit who needs it, and really just stretch yourself and watch what happens back. That's what's so fabulous about it, is how powerful it is for what happens more positively in your life. But just do it because it's, again, the right thing to do, and I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Well, I so appreciate you coming on and discussing this, because it's perfect timing. It's always good timing to talk about kindness, but like you said, in this intense world we happen to live in, it's definitely something that we can all use, and I so appreciate it. And I'm hoping that I'll see you soon, based on what we talked about earlier with CEO space and whatnot. I hope to see you soon myself.
Oh, thank you, Bernadette.
So
hope
so
to
much.
see you soon, and thank you for your great interview.
You're welcome, and I'll be repeating how they can reach out to you and get your book and your resources as we finish up the program as well. But I appreciate you joining us, Jill.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so everybody, please go to JillLublin.com. Go and buy her book, Profit of Kindness. You will not be disappointed. And not only that, because it really also talks about how to influence others and build trust. So if you're in any kind of leadership role, you want to be you're working on just growing and expanding and trying to kind of build a legacy for yourself in this one life that you have to live, then her book, Profit or Kindness, will provide you all those tips and strategies and those, as she calls them, 7 pathways to kindness and many more things. So please, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, JillLublin.com, and then, of course, if you are in a need, if you have a business or if you're an individual, speaker, author like myself, and you're looking for publicity, go to publicitycrashcourse.com and use that publicity code that she provided and receive a discount. So many ways you can engage and learn from her as to how you can get a return on kindness in your business, career, or life. So please check that out, and we thank Jill for being part of the program. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so just a few more announcements. We will be talking to Kathleen Kerrigan next Tuesday. She's also a return guest, just like Jill, and Kathleen will be talking to us just about how we can open our hearts and just breathe and kind of work our energies into how we can create peace, joy, and love in our lives. And that translates into your career, business, and life. But on a separate note, as a takeaway to the conversation regarding kindness, I would have mentioned this at the top of the hour, but I really wanted to make sure we had time for our guest. Many of you know, because I've been talking about it for the last few months, I just held this very big Creative Plus Investor event last Thursday. And it was, one of those situations that tests every ounce of energy you have. It tests every ounce of project management and organization and relationship building and trust, just like Jill was talking about. And it really, really tested me when it came to this concept of kindness. When things get heated or things get unorganized or things get chaotic or things get kind of stressful, working kindness into it, to working bitchhood into it, kind of can change everything, all the dynamics of all of those interactions, all those collaborations, all those really hard works that then can just kind of fall on their face if not handled properly. And I will confess, because I do this on one of my fan pages of Confessions of a Corporate Bitch, I kind of lost my way in several situations over the last month, I'll say, and found myself really kind of retreating into that old kind of curt, bitchy, defensive mode of operation. Fortunately, like Jill offered up, the don't react, I kept saying that to myself throughout this time period because it was getting, it was becoming situations due to different personalities, due to different generational cultures and beliefs and attitudes and expectations. And it was due to, never really having a cohesive goal or approach well-defined or at least well bought in on. And that's kind of where we lose our way, is when we don't really have a good understanding of different people, different cultures, different belief systems, modes of operation, different communication styles, different personalities. And that often will create a lot of the chaos, a lot of the intensity. I love the words that Jill chose for a lot of what it is that she speaks about. It kind of will influence in either a positive or negative way just how you individually go about approaching those situations. And so, I wasn't proud of myself at all. And fortunately, it was more in written word, which can be misconstrued, than in anything. And found myself really having to pull myself back taking a breather, as she said. Don't react, walk away, take, a night before you kind of respond to a situation that you might not feel appreciated or respected or heard. And so when I knew that Jill was coming up in our conversations, and her conversation was around the profit of kindness, which I've spoken to her about in the past, I knew it was going to feel so good to hear it at this very point in time. And isn't that interesting how those things will happen to us when we really need it? The teacher will come, as they say. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. And so I certainly was going to be appreciating her conversation regarding the profit of kindness and what we can be doing ourselves. Forget about what we get from it, but truly just what can we do around kindness that does change our mindset, does change our attitude, does change our approach or our behavior or our way of communicating, just simply by not reacting and by appreciating those differences. As she said, it's the very top of the hour. Listen to those differing opinions and appreciate them. Don't judge them. Don't react to them. Don't respond to them. And if we can all do that in our everyday life, recognizing that not everything is going to go the way that we want it to go, not everything's going to meet our expectation, not everything is going to kind of play out the way that we individually want it to, and yet continuing to infuse kindness into those matters, into those discussions, into those interactions, that's just such a much better reward, much better return on kindness. So I have to say she's helped me just to kind of breathe and appreciate that all around how kindness can affect our lives. So we're going to take a brief break, and then when we come back, we're just going to finish up with some announcements and some next conversations that we'll have on Shedding the Bitch Radio, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to Shedding the Bitch Radio with Bernadette Boas. We are inspiring individuals around the globe to discover, confront, and shed their bitches of fear, insecurity, and negativity so they can create the riches in their career, business, and life they deserve. Be sure to check out Bernadette's book, Shedding the Corporate Bitch, Shifting from Bitch to Rich in Life and Business, available on Amazon and sheddingthebitch.com. We also want to thank our sponsors, TSR Consulting, who offers a broad range of tax services for small to corporate-sized clients. Go to tsrconsulting.com to learn more. And Parker House Virtual Services, who provides virtual assistance and social media support for small to medium-sized businesses. Email Deborah Parker at deborahparker78@gmail.com for more information. To become a sponsor or advertiser on our program, email us at mediarelations@sheddingthebitch.com. Shedding the Bitch Radio airs every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time. Be sure to go to blogtalkradio.com/sheddingthebitchradio and follow the program for all of the updates and announcements of our guests and show topics. Now let's return to Bernadette and Shedding the Bitch Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we were talking with Jill Lublin all around the profit of kindness. And I want you to make note of her multiple websites, jilllublin.com, profitofkindness.com. And then she also talked about publicity. And like myself, many of you might have a business. You might be a speaker, an author, just someone who is looking to have more exposure in your career or your business or life. So you can also check out publicitycrashcourse.com for all the information regarding the resources that she has around publicity. Next week, as I mentioned, we are talking to Catherine Corrigan. She's a returning guest. She'll talk and inspire and motivate us to just really tap in to our inner self-being and recognize, respect, and as we say here, honor the riches that we already possess in order to accomplish the goals and the dreams that we have in our lives. So that'll be next week. It is Father's Day again. It's Father's Day on Sunday. A shout out to all those dads out there and children, wives, husbands, friends. You might want to help them when it comes to their relationship, not only with their children as a whole, but their father-daughter relationships, and as it pertains to then the whole subject of women in business and equality and equality in roles, equality in pay, equality of advancement in all areas of business where women are concerned. Check out Jeffrey Tobias Halter's Father-Daughter Initiative. Go to ybiz.net, and you'll find information about it. You can download actually his initiative materials and bring them into work. If there's a male manager or a male peer or colleague or supervisor of any kind that you know has daughters, you may want them to read through and even post. You can frame it, you can have them hang it up in their office, and it's all around recognizing that as fathers, being that men make up 85% of the managers within corporate America, we women can't have change without engaging them. And the Father-Daughter Initiative that ybiz.net and Jeffrey Tobias Halter kind of proposes is one way of helping to advance that cause. So, and then at the same time, you can go and pull down the interview I had with him just a few weeks ago on Shedding the Bitch Radio. You can go to either blogtalkradio.com/Shedding the Bitch Radio, or you can go to YouTube, my Shedding the Bitch YouTube channel, and we videotaped that particular interview. And then at the same time, I'm just realizing we will also need to get it up on sheddingthebitch.com, our radio channel there on sheddingthebitch.com, and we'll be sure it's there within the next, 20 minutes for you to pull it down there, all right? And then, like I said, if you want to post your favorite pic of your dad, or a dad, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your uncle, then feel free to post those on our Shedding the Bitch Facebook or Twitter page. We'd love to share them and do a shout-out and help you honor the dads as we lead into Father's Day this Sunday. All right? I am so happy that you were here with us today. I certainly had a major shift within myself as a result of this great conversation with our guest, Jill Lublin. And so I want all of us to kind of walk away and ask ourselves, what is the one thing that we could be doing today consciously and purposely around kindness? And what is one of those pathways, as Jill, whether it's flexibility, generosity, gratitude, that we could be infusing into our world to make the world a better place. So for everybody here at Shedding the Bitch Radio, we will talk with you next Tuesday at noon Eastern Time right here on Shedding the Bitch Radio. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Shedding the Bitch Radio with Bernadette Boas. Join Bernadette every Tuesday at noon Eastern as she helps you shift your bitches to riches. And the dialogue is always going on at sheddingthebitch.com. See you next week.